Welcome back to Daniel Smith's Color Showdown Season 2. I'm so excited to be making Season 2. We have 20 new colors to compare in 10 episodes, and it is all thanks to my patrons who has funded this series. So a huge thanks to all my patrons for all their support and also in making exciting projects like this happen. Since this is episode 1 of season 2, I just want to take a quick moment to talk about a change I've made for season 2. In season 1 started off with just like my own personal need, and I started where I was with what I had. So the mixing colors were the colors that were already on my palette. And that's what this looked like. And several of you commented quite rightly that some of the mixing colors, it just like the color choices didn't make sense. And although I tried to cover the color wheel as much as I could, I totally agree with them that there were some quite weird color choices. Now for season 2, so that it can have a little bit more thought behind the color choices and cover the color wheel a lot better, so that the color swatches that I make from mixing these colors are more useful to you guys, is to update the mixing color range. So these are the colors that I'm going to be using for season 2 in the color mixing section of the tests, and these are based on colors that Stephen Quiller recommends as the 12 basic colors that gives you a really good coverage around the color wheel. In case you don't know who Stephen Quiller is, he is a master colorist, and he is also who I learnt a bulk of my color theory from. And so when he recommends a selection of colors for a good coverage of color wheel, I'm all for going with that. So for episode 1, we are going to be comparing the two colors that were requested the most for comparison, and those two colors are Hansa Yellow Deep and New Gamboge. They are both series 1 paints, and they are right next to each other in most color charts. Both are gorgeous warm yellow, almost going to the orange side of the yellow. And as you can see, they are very similar indeed. And so this isn't going to be a really good comparison of what, if any, the differences are between these two colors. So let's take a closer look at these two colors individually, and then we'll come back and compare the two colors together. Hansa Yellow Deep is made out of the pigment PY65, which is the Aralide Yellow 3RN. Now Daniel Smith says about Hansa Yellow Deep as kissed with a touch of orange, this is a pure chroma color with high tinting organic pigments. Hansa Yellow Deep is considered the perfect yellow, a fact which offers more control when mixing. Painters can admire the purity of this primary pigment and adjust its temperature while avoiding a grey from a hidden complement. Think of a yellow pepper. Excellent in light fastness, semi-transparent, low staining and non-granulating. New Gamboge is made out of two pigments, the first one being PY97, which is the Aralide Yellow, and this time it's the FGL variety rather than the 3RN variety of the Hansa Yellow Deep. The second pigment that makes up the New Gamboge is the PY110, that is the Isoindolin Yellow R. Daniel Smith says, unlike other brands, Daniel Smith's New Gamboge is an excellent light-fast formula. It's a transparent organic pigment from the yellow to orange zone of your color wheel. More staining than yellow ochre and equal in tinting ability to raw sienna, it is a good substitute for those colors when transparency and non-granulation is desired while avoiding thick, muddy passages. New Gamboge is Series 1, excellent in light fastness, transparent, low staining and non-granulating. We are back and the paints have dried. This side is the Hansa Yellow Deep and this side is the new Gamboge. In terms of the overall impression, these two colours are very, very similar. They are both this very bright, happy, as Daniel Smith says, a yellow pepper yellow, and it's a yellow that's leaning a lot towards the orange. It's very, very close to a yellow orange than the yellow. They are both certainly very vibrant colours, very happy colours indeed. So let's take a closer look at each of the tests we did. So comparing the gradation washes we did it in 4 different papers. This whole sheet is made out of the Bockingford cold pressed paper in the 140 pounds or the 300 GSM in weight. And then we also have the Bockingford hot press and the Bockingford rough in the same weight of paper, just to see if the colors react differently to different textures on the paper. And because Arches is such a popular paper, I've also put a sample of the Arches cold press paper on here as well to see if brands make any difference. So this side is the Hansa Yellow Deep and this side is the new Gamboge. And overall, like with the gradated wash, they both do a pretty good job of doing the gradated wash. One thing you do have to watch out for is that they both cauliflower, but the new Gamboge in particular cauliflower quite a lot on all the different papers. So if you use yellows for big washes, then you might want to go towards the Hansa Yellow Deep than the new Gamboge, just because you're going to have an easy experience of having cauliflower free or less cauliflowering washes in your work. If I have to be nitpicky, then I would say that the Hansa Yellow Deep, by a very, very small margin, is the more intense, brighter yellow of the two. The new Gamboge is just a tiny bit fraction, bit more neutralized, but it's very, very close. So unless you're looking to do very, very bright, happy painting, then I don't think the hue comes in. But if you are looking for the extra little bit of brightness, then the Hansa Yellow Deep is the one for you. Looking at the opacity, lifting and glazing, up here we have the Hansa Yellow Deep and down here we have the new Gamboge. Now when it comes to opacity, Daniel Smith states that the Hansa Yellow Deep is the semi-transparent and the new Gamboge as the transparent. However, I have to say there is a very small amount of deposit on the black line for the new Gamboge as well as the Hansa Yellow Deep. And so if you're looking for a very, very, very transparent colors that leave no deposit on the black line, then I would say this is more towards the semi-transparent than the transparent. They both lift very, very well. It was very easy to lift both of them. I would say on overall impression that the new Gamboge lifted a little bit better. Like this seems to be a brighter patch than this. However, I would say that the Hansa Yellow Deep has the more whiter patch than the new Gamboge. New Gamboge has this slight faint bright yellowness to the lifted area. In terms of glazing, they glaze really well, which is quite surprising for two colors that lift so easily, because when you try to glaze with easily lifting colors, what normally happens is that the paint on the first layer likes to come up and come off the paper with the new layer that you're trying to put down on the paper, so you end up with a very patchy glaze. But maybe it's because it's yellow rather than a more intense hue that the patchiness isn't so obvious. But again, if I have to nitpick, I would say Hansa Yellow Deep created a more even glaze than the new Gamboge did. I can see a slight unevenness here. In terms of gaussing, neither of them produced a linear pattern. What is interesting, however, is the hues that these two colors create. With the Hansa Yellow Deep, you just get a even orangey yellow pattern. However, with the new Gamboge, with it being made out of 2 pigments instead of the 1, you get the orange pattern happening, but also you then get the yellow background happening which is really nice and quite interesting texture. It adds a three-dimensionality to the texture that is being created. In terms of using salt on these colors, I don't know why I thought salt wouldn't work on these two colors, but they work fantastically, and in some areas the salt actually took the paper all the way back to white, as you can see in here and also around here. So salt works in both Hansa Yellow Deep and the new Gamboge very well. In terms of water blooms, I would say they react to water blooms to a medium amount. You definitely get the feathering around here, but because yellow is a lighter hue, you don't see the effect as much as you would in, say, like a much darker colors like purples and blues. Now let's take a look at how the two colors mixes with the 12 mixing colors that I showed you earlier in the video. So this side is Hansa Yellow Deep and this side is New Gamboge, and these are the 12 colors I mixed these two colors with. So this is what happens when you mix Hansa Yellow Deep with these colors. And this is what happens when you mix New Gamboge with these 12 colors. With both Hansa Yellow Deep and New Gamboge, because they are very close to the yellow orange but not quite yellow orange, its complementary color is gonna lie somewhere between the ultramarine violet and the ultramarine blue. So you get very nicely neutralized colors here. Especially the ultramarine violet with Hansa Yellow Deep produces this very soft, very nice grey that also has this tinge of purple and yellow to it, so it's quite like a happy grey. And then you get very interesting effects on both the Hansa Yellow Deep and the New Gamboge when it's mixed with the ultramarine blue, because of course ultramarine blue granulates very much and it's much stronger tinted color than the ultramarine violet, so the granulation is more obvious, and you can see the granulation very clearly here where you can see patches of blue and yellows, but from a distance it will look more neutralized. Of course, because it is like a yellow orange color, it mixes beautifully with all the yellows and oranges and reds and the quinacridone rose. You also get this lovely like wine color when you mix the Hansa Yellow Deep with the quinacridone violet. You also get lovely greens on both colors. However, there is a slight difference that I can see in that the Hansa Yellow Deep mixes a slightly more neutralized greens, whereas the New Gamboge produces a slightly brighter greens. So if you are looking for a bright yellow to add to your, say, a landscape palette, then I would say that the Hansa Yellow Deep would be more suitable because you are going to be able to produce a more natural looking green, whereas the greens you get with the New Gamboge is very vivid. So if you are looking for a bright color palette, then I would pick the New Gamboge to add to your palette. The difference in the intensity of the color or the brightness of the color, in the yellows and reds, it's not so obvious between the two colors. It's really mainly in the greens that you notice that one's a little bit more muted than the other. So in conclusion, I would say that the Hansa Yellow Deep and the New Gamboge are very similar colors with very slight differences. So I would say they are interchangeable unless you are looking for very specific characteristics in these colors. So for example, if you're looking for brighter green mixes, go for the New Gamboge. If you're looking for more muted mixes, go for the Hansa Yellow Deep. And if you do use yellows or mixing the yellows into big washes, then I would say that the New Gamboge is the better choice because you are going to have an easier time getting an even wash with minimal color firing compared to the New Gamboge. And for the real niche area of gauzing, you do get the two very different effects, or one being just orange and the other being an orange with a yellow background. They both lift very well and glaze very well, as well as reacting quite well to both salt and having water added to them at a later stage. So which one would you go for? Would you go for the Hansa Yellow Deep or the new Gamboge? Do let me know in the comments down below. And if you do have one of these colors, or maybe even both, on your palette, please do let us know in the comments how you use it and what you feel these colors are best used for, because your knowledge is like the biggest bonus to this series. We all learn so much from sharing information of I use it for this purpose and it mixes really well with these colors. Thank you so much for watching this video. If this video was useful to you, then please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!